How you doing, everybody? My name is Dr. Sammy BAYA. Please welcome back to my YouTube channel. Ways to destroy your enemy without fighting. That's the title of this video. One of the most effective ways to defeat your enemy without physical confrontation is through psychological manipulation. You can subtly sow doubt, confusion, and insecurity in their mind by questioning their confidence or capabilities. You can weaken their resolve without lifting a finger. A well-timed remark or suggestion can create uncertainty, leading them to second-guess themselves. Over time, this erosion of confidence can cause them to falter, giving you the upper hand without ever having to engage in direct conflict. Reputation is a powerful tool, and by carefully managing how your enemy is perceived, you can inflict significant damage without physical confrontation. You can subtly spread rumors or highlight their weaknesses, exposing flaws that others might overlook. This can cause others to lose trust in them, isolating them socially and professionally. When their reputation starts to crumble, their ability to influence others is diminished, effectively weakening their position. In today's world, information is power. By controlling the flow of information, you can create a false narrative that works in your favor. Whether it's through social media, private conversations, or even strategic leaks, you can shape public opinion. You can make your enemy appear incompetent or dangerous. With the right narrative, their actions may be misconstrued, leaving them vulnerable without you ever needing to take any physical action. You can also do divide and conquer. Instead of facing your enemy head-on, you can break their alliances. People are rarely strong alone. They depend on their networks and connections. By subtly planting seeds of distrust among their allies, you can cause divisions that lead to internal conflicts. The more fractured their support base becomes, the weaker they become, ultimately neutralizing the threat they pose without needing to fight them directly. You can also use economic pressure. Economic leverage can be a powerful tool for defeating an enemy. By targeting their finances, whether through indirect means like sabotaging their business deals, or through more overt methods like legal actions or financial manipulation, you can make their operations unsustainable. Economic hardship can lead to desperation, and when they are financially drained, they lose the ability to continue their resistance. This tactic avoids direct confrontation but delivers a decisive blow nonetheless. Every individual has fears, whether personal, professional, or existential. By understanding and exploiting these fears, you can create situations that force your enemy to react defensively. For instance, if you know they fear losing their job, you can subtly suggest to their superiors that they are underperforming. This creates a constant state of anxiety, preventing them from making rational decisions and rendering them ineffective in the long run. One way to destroy an enemy without fighting is to divert their attention. If they are focused on one goal or problem, you can introduce new challenges or distractions that force them to spread their resources thin. This leads to a lack of focus and makes it difficult for them to achieve their objectives. In the end, their inability to concentrate on the most pressing issues will wear them down without you ever having to confront them directly. The legal system can be an effective tool for bringing down an enemy without resorting to violence. By filing frivolous lawsuits or using the legal system to create obstacles for them, you can drain their resources and time. Legal battles can be exhausting, and they can prevent your enemy from advancing in their pursuits. With enough legal pressure, they may be forced to concede or abandon their goals entirely, all without physical confrontation. Every person has vulnerabilities, whether it's a personal weakness, a past mistake, or a sensitive issue. By observing your enemy closely, you can uncover these weaknesses and use them to your advantage, whether it's exposing their hypocrisy, revealing a past indiscretion, or highlighting their inability to handle certain situations. You can break their resolve without lifting a finger. The mere recognition of their vulnerabilities can be enough to make them falter. Humans are social creatures, and isolation can be one of the most debilitating forms of punishment. By subtly encouraging others to distance themselves from your enemy, you can make them feel alone and unsupported. Over time, this can erode their sense of self-worth and leave them vulnerable to defeat. By cutting off their social connections, you weaken their morale, making them less of a threat without ever confronting them physically. Pride can often be an enemy's downfall. If you can get your enemy to overestimate their abilities or make them believe they are invisible, you can lead them into situations where they will inevitably fail. Their arrogance may cause them to make reckless decisions or take unnecessary risks, ultimately leading to their downfall. You don't need to fight them directly. Their pride will destroy them on its own. One of the most effective ways to destroy an enemy without direct confrontation is by making them believe they're safe. If your enemy thinks they have no threats to worry about, they will likely lower their guard, making them vulnerable to surprise attacks or revelations. By keeping them complacent and relaxed, you give them enough rope to hang themselves when the time comes. Everyone relies on something, be it a substance, a relationship, or an external factor for stability. If you can identify your enemy's dependency and exploit it, you can cause them to lose control. Whether it's undermining their support system, feeding their addiction, or creating situations that exploit their reliance on others, you can break them down over time without a direct confrontation. Information is often weaponized in subtle ways. By feeding your enemy false or misleading information, you can cause them to make poor decisions, whether it's spreading rumors, sending them in the wrong direction, or manipulating the facts to create chaos. This information can undermine their ability to function effectively. By the time they realize they have been misled, it may be too late for them to recover. Sometimes all it takes to defeat an enemy is to control their environment. By making their work or home life uncomfortable, you can create a constant source of stress. This could involve anything from manipulating their living conditions to disrupting their professional environment. With enough pressure on their daily life, they may be worn down emotionally and mentally, making them less effective and eventually retreating without any direct confrontation. While often seen as a strength, an inflated ego can be a significant weakness. By flattering your enemy and appealing to their sense of superiority, you can manipulate them into making impulsive decisions that work against their best interests. When they believe they are invulnerable or better than others, they may let their guard down, allowing you to exploit their overconfidence without ever having to confront them physically. Some enemies are too strong to defeat quickly, so you must think strategically. By biding your time and patiently waiting for the right opportunity, you can create conditions where your enemy will destroy themselves. Through subtle actions, you can gradually weaken them over time, leaving them vulnerable when they least expect it. The key to this approach is persistence, allowing the situation to unfold naturally without rushing into direct conflict. In many cases, legal frameworks have loopholes that can be exploited. By studying the rules and regulations surrounding your enemy, you can find ways to undermine their position through legal means, whether it's through contracts, intellectual property laws, or financial regulations. Using these loopholes can create enormous pressure on your enemy, forcing them to either comply with your demands or face crippling consequences. If your enemy holds a position of power, undermining their authority can be a powerful way to weaken them. This can be done by discrediting their decisions, questioning their leadership, or showing their incompetence in front of others. When the respect and trust that others have in them begins to fade, they lose their power and influence, effectively neutralizing them as a threat without a physical confrontation. An enemy's strength can often be turned into a liability if you know how to exploit it. For instance, if your enemy is highly ambitious, you can push them to overreach and overcommit, spreading their resources too thin. Or if they are highly competitive, you can make them feel the need to prove themselves in futile ways. By manipulating their strongest traits, you can ensure that their own power becomes the very thing that brings about their downfall. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you've learned a thing or two. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you've not done so. Thank you.